Hello everyone, welcome back to A1 Politics and Civics. Today we will be discussing the paths to 270 electoral votes for each presidential candidate. First up, we've got to identify our swing states. We're looking at the Rust Belt in the northern part of the country, which is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, as well as the Sun Belt in the southern part of the country, which is North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. A sleeper state that could flip would be New Hampshire, up in the northeastern part of the country. I believe this will be a very close state, just like it was in 2016, where Hillary Clinton won the state by 3,000 votes with 0.4 percentage points. That had a heavy third-party vote share, which you didn't see again in 2020. I think it will end up being closer than the current polling spread of 8 points. Trump lost by just over 7 points in 2020, and I don't think that losing margin is going to go up. I also don't think that New Hampshire will be as close as any of these other states, though. However, I could be wrong. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, you could argue that Kamala might sweep all the swing states, or that Trump might do the same, but that's not a very interesting map. We're going to go through 3 different paths that each candidate has on the road to 270, 3 different combinations that each one could use to reach that magic number. We'll begin with Trump, the Republican challenger. The first scenario is the early call on the East Coast. If Trump wins the following states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, then that gets him to 270. Kamala can take all of these other states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, that still only gets her to 268 electoral votes versus Trump's 270. All of these states are on the East Coast and use the Eastern time zone. So if Trump comes in and runs up the score in these 3 states, we'll look at a very early call on election night. The second scenario for Trump is the Rust Belt Redux. We'll say that he wins North Carolina, just like he did in both of his general election campaigns in 2016 and 2020. Republicans have almost negated the Democrat voter advantage in that state, and he's on track to win it again if the early voting statistics are anything to go by, making him 3 for 3. If he flips Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, just like he did in 2016, that's 279 electoral votes. Chalk up another win for Trump. Finally, we have the trend breaker. This map is going to have several results that haven't happened either in a long time or at all. For example, Arizona has not voted to the left of Nevada since Arizona became a state in 1912. North Carolina has voted blue 1 time since 1976, voting for Obama in 2008. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin have voted together since 1988. This map changes all of that, with North Carolina voting to the left of Georgia, which flips back to Trump. Arizona staying with Harris, and Nevada flipping to Trump. Wisconsin and Pennsylvania both flip to Trump, with Michigan staying to Harris. This again gives Trump a 270 to 268 victory over his opponent Harris. This would be one of the stranger maps we've seen. As far as the paths for Kamala Harris go, for her, we have first up the Sun Belt Squeaker. This gives Harris North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. This presents a problem for Trump in that he can win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, sweeping the Rust Belt, but he still needs to take one of these Sun Belt states. He's got to play defense in North Carolina and go on offense in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. If he doesn't defend the Sun Belt, it makes it extremely hard for him to win. You could also have Harris rebuild the blue wall with Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. This scenario is why you had politicians like Josh Shapiro and Gretchen Whitmer, governors of Pennsylvania and Michigan respectively, being discussed as vice presidential picks for the Harris campaign. She ended up choosing Tim Walz, Minnesota's governor, for his perceived appeal in the upper Midwest, hence the name of this scenario, Blue Walls. Just like earlier, if Trump doesn't snag any one of these Rust Belt states, it doesn't matter how else he performs in the other swing states. He's got to win one of those 3. That's 270 electoral votes again for Harris. Finally, we have Viva Las Vegas. I've got Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona all going for Harris, with Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Wisconsin going for Trump. This means that Nevada is going to be the very last state to be called. I mentioned earlier, it's not voted to the right of Arizona since it's been a state. So if Arizona goes blue, it's highly unlikely based on trends that Nevada will be going red. It's not impossible given that Republicans won the governorship in 2022. But in this case, Harris would get the state and its 6 electoral votes. It would put Harris at 274 and Trump at 264. That wraps up the 3 possible paths to 270 for each candidate that go beyond the typical sweeps of the swing states. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and to subscribe for more insights.